Coming up next on Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable, the United States Supreme Court legalizes same-sex marriage. This just one day after the High Court upheld a key component of the Affordable Care Act. We'll discuss how the decisions impact Arizona next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal, and Bob Christie of the Associated Press. The U.S. Supreme Court today ruled in favor of same-sex marriage. The court ruled that under the 14th Amendment protections, states must issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples and recognize same-sex unions legally performed in other states. Mary Jo, is this a surprise?
No, I don't think it was perceived as a surprise. In fact, some of the groups that are opposed to the concept say that they've been preparing for this for a matter of time. And in Arizona, same-sex marriage has been legal since October.
Indeed, and this was a 5-4, and people that were, and we're going to get to the Obamacare ruling in a second, they were wondering if John Roberts had jumped ship, conservatives have. He returned to the fold.
Yeah, it was 5-4. Kennedy was the key vote on this one, and Roberts stayed with the conservatives. Obviously, as you mentioned, the majority brought up the 14th Amendment, Equal Protection Clause. It was kind of a little more expansive of opinion, I think, than some people expected, because they did bring up some of the privacy rights and those types of rights that came up in Roe. Back in the 70s in their decision. Roberts was one of wrote the dissenting opinion, and basically took kind of more strict constructionalist type argument that here you had the majority of the court, 5 attorneys, making law stuff. I think this is where kind of conservatives kind of lost the argument on this. The country's kind of moved in terms of tolerance and views towards gays and gay marriage, and the marketplace has moved. A bunch of companies came out today in favor of this thing, but I think the conservatives had the argument that, hey, does the court make the laws, or does the people and the states and the legislature make the laws? That really didn't come out until you kind of saw Justice Roberts' opinion today.
Yeah, and all 4 of the dissenters actually wrote separate opinions, which is a little bit unusual. But again, Roberts, as Mike mentioned, is basically saying this is not endorsed by the Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. Chief Justice Roberts said that the majority was basically making law. They were going much farther than the Constitution said. They were getting ahead of what the people of the United States want. I mean, basically what the court did today is strike down 14 states that still have same-sex marriage. And prior to that, by refusing to take appeals from places like Arizona and the Ninth Circuit, they allowed same-sex marriage to spread across the country in a lot of other opinions over the last year. That's one of the reasons why this was expected. I mean, they turned down case after case after case until they finally got one where some court upheld. Oh, actually, there was 4 states, same-sex marriage ban in 4 states had been upheld, and then they took that one.
Right.
So it was pretty well assumed that this was going down.
So I think what this does is it sets the stage for the next battlefield, and I suspect that and many people suspect it will be religious freedom. And do we in Arizona get something like another version of Senate Bill 1062 that we saw last year, where or the right to discriminate depending on how you viewed that law? No early signals on that, but that seems to be perhaps the next line of defense.
And I believe Elia Rao wrote that there was over 1,000 laws on the books in Arizona defining marriage as between a man and a woman. Everything from adoption to taxes to property rights. I mean, talk about a battlefield. That's a lot of battles there.
Absolutely, and companies are going to have to go through this and look at their policies related to family leave and bereavement and all kinds of benefits. But yeah, you have a lot of language out there in a lot of statutes throughout the country that's going to have to be changed. And I do think you'll see the LGBT groups, focus now on discrimination laws, on workplace discrimination protections that they might not enjoy in states and certain jurisdictions. I think you'll see that fight kind of pop up a lot.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen in Arizona too. We talked about how are we going to see another 1072, an expansion or a definition of greater religious rights for folks to be able to say, I don't want to participate. Well, the same thing's going to happen on the other side. You can expect libertarian groups and Democrats and social progressives to say, we need an actual protection for housing, for workplace. There is no protection right now. If your boss comes to you and says, you know what, you're a good worker, but I don't really like your lifestyle, you're gone.
That would be an initiative push. You think that we could likely see something like that?
Well, it would be more likely to happen through an initiative than through the legislature.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, this is not a place that the Arizona legislature wants to go in terms of advancing those rights for gays and lesbians. But I don't know. Next year is going to be a real busy year, both at the ballot and at the State House.
Well, I think you'll see it play out at the local level too. You already have Phoenix, Tucson, Tempe, Flagstaff have some protections. Glendale was considering. I think you'll see a lot of city governments, city councils kind of consider these things, and they'll go that route because obviously they can't get something through the legislature.
Well, what I would expect through the legislature is not greater protections, but again, some type of 1070 type proposal from Kathy Herod's group, which would specify, extend some rights to the religious. And we don't know, it's not going to be 1062 like we saw a couple of years ago. Whether that gets the support of the governor, I think at this point, based on what he's done so far, I think it's dicey.
Well, I don't think that the chambers or the governor have any appetite for another fight
Well,
like
but
that. They
that's
don't
an
want
interesting.
Anderson Cooper coming to town.
I was going to ask about that, because if there is an initiative push to add, this protection to race, gender, religion, disability, and these sorts of things, if there's something like that, we've already heard from some business people in Arizona saying we can't afford to give the impression of that kind of discrimination. Will we see business leaders get in front of a parade that says, no, we want to continue that kind of discrimination?
No, I think the marketplace has kind of spoken on this. You've seen this today. All the companies, the big brands that have come out, American Airlines had its big presence here. They had a statement in support of this Supreme Court ruling almost immediately this morning. Southwest Airlines, Starbucks, Google, Apple. The companies see millennials. They see appealing to, obviously, the gay community in supporting these things. And those are big consumer groups. And the marketplace has moved towards that. So they don't want that here. They don't want a repeat of that.
Yeah, businesses were late to the game last year when Senate Bill 1062 was working its way through the legislature, and only after it passed and was on Governor Brewer's desk did they speak up. I don't think they're going to want to see a repeat of that.
Well, yeah, and again, it's one thing to be against something, it's another thing to get in front of the parade for something. Would they get in that parade to end that kind of discrimination?
I think they might. I think, if the business community senses that that is hurting Arizona, they're going to get in front of it, and they're going to push for an expansion of protections for workplace discrimination, and I think they're going to surely push back against any effort from the conservatives to try to expand a 1062 like a religious protection law. I think there's no doubt about that.
I definitely think that if there was an initiative that had some legs to it, that had some money behind it, that had some real chance of passing, you would see the business community here get behind that. The big companies, the sports teams, the tourism folks. I don't think they're going to be in front of the cart here, funding something and pushing it themselves, but they would join in if somebody else, pushed something like this.
Impact, and you said a busy time at the legislature could be very interesting next go around. The impact overall on politics, does this energize the base of the Republican side, saying we lost, and we're getting to Obamacare in a second here, but we lost on that one, we've now lost on this one, we got to make sure we get our guys in there, or is it a recognition that things are changing?
No, I think it's the former. I think that the segment of the base that is very socially conservative, they're likening this to Roe v. Wade. Okay, abortion rights were made legal by the Supreme Court 40 years ago, but they're still fighting, and this is the new fight.
Do you think
well, nationally, we didn't. Yesterday, we saw this huge outpouring of angst from the Republicans nationally about the Supreme Court decision that upheld the subsidies on Obamacare. Today, it was very muted. I think that the National Republican Party knows that this train has left the station. Gay marriage is an issue that's going to hurt the party, and they're going to try to do everything they.
Yeah, maybe nationally, but I think
right,
on a state level.
On a state level. Well, as we know, we do things in this state regardless of what the national folks do, but I don't think you're going to whip up the base that much with this issue, even at the state level.
Between abortion and this ruling, because Roe v. Wade left gray matter, gray room for states like Arizona to impose restrictions. So we're always kind of trying to push that puck and seeing what the courts will approve. Where this is fait accompli, this is kind of seems like a done deal. I guess you could go out and try to get a constitutional amendment nationally to do something, but that's not going to happen.
No, but you can fight the little fights regarding adoption and property and taxes and these sorts of things.
I think nationally the train has left. I think the Republican Party sees that. And I think within like the religious evangelicals, there's always this debate that kind of pops up of how involved should we be in politics? Should we be out there doing the Lord's work, doing charity, doing other things, saving souls, or should we be out there, you know, in the political game? And I think you'll see some talk about that within the socially conservative circles, whether politics is something we should stick with so much or we'll move on to other stuff.
Okay, so we get to Affordable Care Act. That decision was a 6-3 vote as opposed to 5-4, which most folks expected. Was that a surprise?
Yeah, I think that one was a surprise, both because of the margin, because of the 6-3, and just the fact that it passed. And it appears to pretty much cement in Obamacare by saying that subsidies are available whether you're getting your health insurance through a state-run exchange or the federally run exchange.
And Chief Justice Roberts actually wrote the opinion, which is significant in and of itself. Yeah. But he basically just said that it's, you know, Congress passed the Affordable Care Act. They didn't do that to damage it. They passed it to make it work. Why would they put something in there that would damage it?
That's exactly what his analysis was. And I kind of disagree a little bit with Mary Jo. This was kind of expected. If you looked at the decision 2 years ago, Chief Roberts did all sorts of legal gymnastics to uphold it a couple years ago. And this was a lot easier run for him. If he held it last time, a good number of observers thought that he's likely going to uphold it this time. Now, what he said was, you know, if you suddenly take 7 million people in 34 states that don't have their own exchange and throw them off the system, you'll end up with a death spiral, which is exactly what Congress was trying to avoid, which is people not being insured, uncompensated care going up, hospitals raising prices for everybody else, insurance companies raising prices for those people who do, and it's just this never-ending circle.
And then you had the dissenters, Justice Scalia, after using words like jiggery-pokery and calling the opinion pure applesauce.
Applesauce.
Yeah, basically said words no longer have meaning. This was a clear fight between people who put the Constitution in context and those who say it has a literal meaning. Follow it.
Yeah, it was interesting that, you know, Roberts' dissent on the same-sex marriage ruling had a little parallels to Scalia's dissent against Roberts on Obamacare. The strict group, the strict interpretation of things, they don't have the votes there on a lot of cases now. Obviously, the first Obamacare case, this one, where they basically found a way to keep it intact, and obviously the conservative argument against same-sex marriage was there's nothing in the Constitution about marriage. You're creating something out of nothing.
And this was pretty significant in Arizona alone. There's about 126,000 people who get their health insurance through the federal exchange because Arizona opted to not establish its own state exchange. So if the court had ruled the other way, they wouldn't have been entitled to tax subsidies, and we had a law that was passed and signed into law, or a bill that was passed and signed into law that would have prevented the state from setting up its own exchange, anything to sort of comply with a federal mandate that they disagree with. So that would have created a quandary for Governor Ducey and also for our congressional delegation.
No kidding. Right. I mean, you would have had to figure out what to do with all those folks. That's a lot of money that wouldn't be coming in. It's a lot of uncompensated care that hospitals, this was what they were arguing about way back when to get Medicaid expanded in the first place.
That's exactly the case. And you know, I talked to the Democratic House Majority Leader, Eric Meyer, who's a physician. And he said, I don't know what the governor was thinking. You know, was he gambling? I don't know what he was thinking, because if the court had gone the other way, the governor would have either had to let 126,000 people lose their insurance, which not only upsets 126,000, mostly probably Democratic voters, but who knows, plus all the business community, the hospitals. I mean, he would have had to either have just turned away and said, nope, I don't like Obamacare, I'm not going to do anything, or he would have had to really figure out some plan B that wasn't fully formed.
Sure, and politically, a lot of Republicans nationally and in different states didn't have a plan B.
Yeah.
So they're not exactly big losers on this one. You know, obviously, ideologically, philosophically, they are, but they didn't have a plan B nationally or in states. So they can still go out there and campaign against Obamacare, you know, and make that argument, and they get that appeals to their base. But they don't have to they don't have to deal with the consequences of the court getting rid of this thing. So they kind of, in a way, get the best of both worlds a little bit.
What was the reaction of business, specifically hospitals?
I think everybody. I think they were happy. I think overall, I think the business community was happy with this. They didn't want a changing landscape again. Certainly, you have the folks that are more conservative that don't like this thing. But I think businesses have been getting used to this. Certainly, the healthcare industry has. And I think if this would have gone away, it would have just erased everything and would have, could have cascaded.
Right. And the stock market loved it. I mean, nationally, health insurance companies' stocks went way up. Hospital companies like Tenet Healthcare, big hospital chains, went way up because it took that risk of suddenly another whole batch of uncompensated care coming onto the system nationally, and the same as in Arizona, took it off the table and said, "Oh, we can breathe a sigh of relief. We've got people who have insurance."
But it's not over yet because we have a lawsuit in which 36 Republican lawmakers are in court now arguing that the way the state set up its Medicaid expansion, which is another pool of people, of many, many people, was improper. And if they prevail in this court hearing, which is this case, which has been dragging on, then that would put a whole nother lot of, potentially
Right.
put
So
a lot
look
of
at
people
those
out of
numbers
Medicaid expansion.
Well, and it brings back the Plan B scenario. Is there a Plan B if they win?
I have not heard of a Plan B. We've been told that the governor's office had some kind of a plan, but it's lost on me.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either. I suppose the plan is drag your feet as long as you can in court for now. And then, the governor will, if the governor loses, he'll have to make a choice. Do I let 340,000, which is the latest number, lose health insurance, or do I have to go against what I've said during my whole campaign and that I don't like Obamacare?
Well, without sounding too callous, I think in a way the answer is go get a job. Get a job that has benefits, that covers, health insurance, and, pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
A lot of the expansion population that we're talking about, which is, we have two sections, the folks who earn less than 100% of the federal poverty level, who are what are so-called childless adults. They're the folks working at the Chevron station or the Chronicle Homeless, who, even if they have a job, nowhere near make enough money to rent a decent place to live, let alone get health care.
Let's get to the political aspect of this. Again, same question that I asked regarding the first issue, same-sex marriage now with Obamacare. Does this solidify the base? Does this get people energized in one direction or the other? I mean, again, a lot of these health issues, you get really close to it, and I just don't know if people that think Obamacare has to go, are ready to say that when they figure out that a lot of folks that vote are on Obamacare.
I think you see folks on the right that want to see Obamacare go, and I guess their focus now is to get a Republican president in there who can nix this with a Republican Congress. So I think that'll be their focus. So I think you'll see national Republicans running for Congress stress this, because overall the law isn't super popular, especially obviously on the right. So I think you'll see they'll focus on that. It's been a good week for Democrats, been a good week for the president, it's been a good week for folks that are a little more liberal on issues ranging from healthcare to social policy.
It could be a good week for Republicans who wanted to wake up the base, too, and say, here's what's going to happen if you don't elect X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely. The only choice now to get rid of Obamacare for the Republican Party is to elect a Republican president and keep the Republican Congress. That's the only hope they have.
Did Senator Kelly Ward compare Obamacare to slavery, or did she basically compare laws that weren't good in the past to this particular law that isn't good? What was she doing?
Well, this is something I think that Ben Carson, a Republican, he's a neurosurgeon, I think a Republican presidential candidate, he's African American, has made these comparisons too in the past. So you've seen different Republicans, different conservatives make these types of comparisons, that it's a bad law, that its government's too big, that it doesn't give people personal freedom.
Yeah, was that a wise comparison?
For her base, it might be. For even a broad primary, it's not good. It's fodder for attack ads. It is, and if she happens to knock off John McCain, then she's got, and at least Ann Kirkpatrick and who knows who else.
Right.
That's bad for our general.
Okay, we got these two out of the way now here. We got, same-sex marriage today, Obamacare yesterday. Redistricting, we're still waiting. And that's the one that, in terms of pure politics, That was huge.
It is. This is a case, well, actually there's two redistricting cases, but the legislature has sued the Independent Redistricting Commission, saying it lacks the authority to draw congressional boundaries. Now, they've lost that case in the lower courts, but the legislature brought it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. There was a hearing in March, and people that watched that hearing thought that the arguments weighed very heavily in favor of the legislature. We'll see. We'll see on Monday, because that's the last day the court's going to issue opinions. I think they've got 3 opinions left to issue, and I don't think anyone expected this to be the last one. But if the legislature prevails, we could see a redrawing of congressional boundaries. But before we get too far down that path, it really will depend what the court says and how they rule. Because the question at issue is, does the legislature have the authority? And if the answer is just simply no, then maybe you have to go back and sue to overturn the maps. I mean, there could be lots of nuances in there in how the court rules.
And if the court says yes, you could have an initiative out there to change whatever the new maps look like.
Yeah, that's true. There's a couple different ways out of this. So let's say the Supreme Court throws out the existing congressional map, says that the Independent Redistricting Commission is unconstitutional, can't draw federal congressional maps. Then the legislature would have to come into special session, draw new maps, and if they're bad, Democrats could immediately go to the voters, collect 200,000 signatures or 160,000 signatures, and that law's on hold. At which point, what do we do for 2016? Do we go to a federal judge and say, Judge, we have new maps, but the public has put them, the voters have put them on hold. Can you draw some for 2016? Do you go back to the unconstitutional ones? It's a nightmare.
Well, when the court heard the first Obamacare case, they peppered the Obama administration attorneys with a lot of questions, and everybody thought it was going to get overturned, and then voila, Justice Roberts, finds a nugget that keeps it alive. So that's always a chance. If you look at the 2 rulings this week with Obamacare and same-sex marriage, maybe it's a chance they keep it. Maybe they go a little more broader interpretation than a narrow interpretation of who draws lines, and so they could keep it there. If they get rid of it, it becomes the Kyrsten Sinema Employment Act, and what does she do? How fast do the Republicans try to erase that district, which favors Democrats, and what do they do with some of the other districts, and how they kind of piece things together.
And this also has implications beyond state boundaries. California has an independent redistricting commission as well. There's a few other states, can't recall them off the top of my head, but this would question their authority as well.
Well, and not only that, there are dominoes that are kind of waiting to fall from this, aren't they? I mean, everything from who's going to run to what kind of, what the governor's going to do, if there's a special session, what you do in this. I mean, everyone's kind of waiting, aren't they?
Yes, they've been waiting the whole month of June, getting up early and tuning into SCOTUS blog on the internet to watch for those opinions. Now, there's also another case involving the legislative boundaries. The court never held a hearing on it. This one does not question the commission's authority, but it says they didn't do a good job drawing those 30 legislative districts, and they packed too many Republicans into too few districts that threw advantage to the Democrats. It violates one man, one vote. What's going to happen in that one? Apparently, the court could roll that over to next term and say, well, maybe we'll deal with it next year, or perhaps they'll dispatch with it tomorrow.
Right.
Ironically, the Republicans could lose seats in California if they overturn both of these.
Right.
They could, and so it would be kind of a wash. They would win maybe win a seat or 2 here and give them back in California, where their weakness there nationally in California has hurt the party in presidential races and overall, I think. So they might win it. They might get rid of Kyrsten Sinema. She might have to go run against Gallego or against Kirkpatrick in some kind of primary, but they'd lose some California Republicans.
Yeah, and it's another example of the Arizona Republicans not necessarily seeing the larger picture, which is, yeah, we've got 1 more seat here in Arizona or 2 more, but they're going to lose 6 in California.
Yeah, but again, I mean, that wasn't their motivation. This was a principled argument, I think, driven heavily by Senate President Andy Biggs, who just said, the plain reading of the elections clause says that it is the legislature with a capital L that determines the time, place, and manner.
There is a lot of
he's reading
anger
the
there.
first half of the election clause. The second half of the election clause says, except Congress can change that. which they did in 1911. I read a big.
And again, it becomes what is a legislature in terms
Yes.
of context, with the people deciding who does their work
And
for
you know,
them.
in Western states like Arizona, California, the people initiatives have been a major player in that, so that could be part of the decision. And there was a lot of emotion there from Republicans here. They hate that commission. They hate how it turned out with how Democrats had an advantage on the commission this time. And so there's a lot of that driving out. They certainly have legal argument, and that's why we're sitting here talking about this. We're not sure what's going to happen because it could go either way in how you define legislature. But I think they'd love to just get rid of that thing.
And real quick, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, and meanwhile, the work has already begun on new maps.
Oh, I'll bet.
I mean, the Republican House and Senate have contracted with a consultant, and they started work on, I think it was earlier this month or late last month.
I'll bet that there are dozens upon dozens of maps that are being drawn by folks in their basement on their
Oh, I
computers.
think people are, falling asleep drawing names and drawing maps.
All right, good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. Monday on Arizona Horizon, we'll have more on the Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage, and we'll learn about becoming a foster parent in Arizona. That's Monday on Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, Arizona Congressman Ruben Gallego will join us in studio. Wednesday, we'll look at efforts to employ more adults with developmental disabilities. Thursday, a Supreme Court review with ASU law professor Paul Bender. And Friday, it's another edition of the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.